Mike, you ready to talk about some white line disease?
Absolutely, Corbin. That's what we're here for this afternoon.
Absolutely.
It's a great Friday afternoon in the state of Alabama.
Mm,
Last night it was about 52 degrees.
it's nice, isn't it?
It is.
It's nice,
It's sunny.
cooler
High
weather.
today in the mid 80s. So everything is wonderful here. And we hope that in your part of the world, everything is well with you as well.
Well, speaking of their part of the world,
Mhm.
we've got people from Canada, Georgia, Norway,
No, okay.
Maryland, Ireland, Georgia, Arkansas, Ohio, Switzerland, Denmark, England, Ohio, Texas. So we've
Wow.
all over the place. We've got a big day. A lot of people, of course, have signed on to attend this. As usual, we try our best to answer questions as we go. So feel free to ask any question that you may have as we go through here. We can't guarantee we'll get to that. And of course, a lot of the questions Mike is already going to answer through the presentation. So if we don't answer it right off, no worries. We hopefully will answer it through the presentation. And if we don't answer it, then feel free. You can always email us at cservice@lifedatalabs.com, and we'll be happy to tackle those questions and help you with them.
And if we don't know the answer, we will do our best to find an answer for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, just to give it just a few more minutes and let a few more people make sure everyone gets on. I know, of course, we always, say, of course, we're going live at 2 o'clock Central Time. So I know a lot of people are just now jumping on. So just to give it a few more minutes, and if you're unfamiliar with the way that we do these live events, of course, we are laid back, and you can feel free to ask questions as we go on. But for everyone here in the United States or watching from the States, we do giveaways. So, of course, we're going to have our live giveaways that we're going to host here. And for you watching live, you can have a chance to win those. And that is over here. We have, of course, the hoof clay, the finish, the yellow t-shirt, a cap, and the breeder's formula. And the way that you're going to be able to win that is Mike here has some preset questions.
We have 3 total.
3 of them total. We're going to ask those questions, give you guys about 2 minutes to get your answers in, and then we're going to randomly select someone who's gotten that question correct. And again, unfortunately, that's only for the United States due to some international giveaway laws. We're incapable of stretching that out any further. And then, of course, we have our grand prize giveaway, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But if you see the little green bar at the bottom of your screen, you can see the link for that giveaway down there. Feel free to enter in that giveaway at any point in time. Just put that link into another browser and hit search, and then that'll pull up and you can enter that. Again, that's still just for the United States, unfortunately. But it's going to be a good grand prize giveaway, and we'll announce that winner next Tuesday.
2 o'clock Central Time.
Absolutely. And of course, we had a huge event just a few weeks ago on laminitis.
We did, and we had a great participation in that.
Huge turnout for that.
Great questions that were asked.
Absolutely. So if you were able to attend that, that's great. We were so happy to have you. If you didn't, that is actually available to watch on our YouTube channel as well as on our Facebook. So you can go to our videos and find that live event plus past live events. So if you do miss one, we do try to record these. But again, we'd like to have you guys here live so that we can interact with you, talk with you, and of course do our giveaways. Well, Mike, yes, Julie would like to know, is there a special code for the giveaway? Yes, there will be a special code. We'll announce that just a little bit later.
And that's for the grand prize.
Yes, that's for the grand prize. You don't have to have the special code to enter, but entering in the code is a huge benefit in helping you win. It gives you a ton more entries, and that's kind of our way to give you who watch this video just a larger chance to win. So make sure to tune in, and we'll announce that a little bit later. Okay.
And
Mike, do you want to?
We would like to call to your attention. We've got a couple of great horse expos that are coming up in the very near future here in the U.S. Of course, we travel internationally, okay? And hopefully at some point in time, the international travel is going to, the restrictions are going to be lessened a little bit, and a lot of these shows internationally are actually going to take place, and we'll have a presence at them as well. But here in the U.S., the first weekend in October, there'll be an event called Equitana USA.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be held at the Kentucky Horse Park. And if you have the opportunity to come and participate in that, there's a host of different educational events, all type of riding events, and then you have the ability to shop and spend all the money that you'd like as far as the trade show itself. Once again, that's the first weekend in October, which is the 1st through the 3rd at the Kentucky Horse Park. We'll actually be in booth 133. And I think we can do this. If you'll come by our booth and tell us that you watch us on Facebook Live, we'll give you a free t-shirt.
Oh, right. That's a good deal. And then on top of that, me and you are both going to be at an expo coming up in November.
That is correct.
And that's going to be in
West Springfield,
Massachusetts,
which has been an annual event for several years. Of course, this past year it was canceled, okay? But hopefully everything is going to be a go for this November, and that will be the 11th through the 14th. That's a Thursday through a Sunday event. Once again, great shopping, a host of different vendors that'll be present there that you can talk to, all type of horsey events, clinicians that'll be there that you can watch, and so forth. And we will be in booth 523 and 524.
Yep.
And once again, come by and see us. If you're there, let us know you watch us on Facebook Live, and we'll have a t-shirt.
Absolutely. And we've got some special things planned for that one as well.
We do.
We'll probably go live from that event several times, and so that'll be a fun week. And then for any of our international watchers, our EU representative Karen, she's going to be at Aachen September 12th through the 19th. Stand number 618. So if you plan on going to Aachen, she's going to be there.
Sure. Go by and talk with Karen.
Absolutely.
She'd be glad to help you.
Absolutely. All right, Mike. Well, are you ready to jump in and talk about some white line disease?
We are ready to jump into our topic for today, and it's a topic that there's a lot of interest in, just white laminitis. And our topic for this afternoon is going to be white line disease. You may have heard the word seedy toe, hollow foot, wall thrush, and even stall rot. And essentially all those are referring to white line disease, okay?
Absolutely.
Of course, when we think about wall thrush, you know, we know what thrush is, the thrush that affects either side of the frog. But when we say wall thrush, I think it gets the name simply because we have this bacterial problem underneath the hoof wall itself. When we say stall rot, what I come to see there is maybe someone that's not doing a good job in cleaning stalls, and we have a bacterial infection that started that particular way. However, though, with white line disease, you can have the cleanest barn in the world, have the best environmental conditions in the world, and still have white line disease. So no horse is singled out, essentially.
Absolutely.
It affects all horses, all breeds, all ages, you name it.
If you have a horse, then they're likely to get this at some point in time.
That's right. And of course, the other term that was used was hollow foot. And believe it or not, what's going on is we have a problem underneath that hoof wall, and we have certain, we'll call them unfriendly guests that get underneath the hoof wall, and they like to digest, they like to eat what's underneath the hoof wall there. And if you actually took a hammer and kind of tapped the hoof wall, you can tell the difference in the sound, hence the name hollow foot. And then the last one was seedy toe. And there's some debate there as to whether or not seedy toe is actually white line disease. So this afternoon, I'll let you make that decision yourself. Of course, the hoof wall is involved, bacteria and fungi is involved, and so we'll let it go with that when we say seedy toe.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, Mike, when we talk about, of course, white line disease, what all aspects of the hoof does the white line disease affect?
That's a good question, Corbin. In fact, when we talk about what part of the foot that's going to be affected. When we take a look at the hoof wall, and if we zoom into this area right here, and hopefully you can see this, basically everything from the end of my pen out is the hoof wall. In fact, the thicker part there is actually the hoof wall itself that it's kind of like your fingernail there, so to speak. But what's going to be infected is going to be what's underneath that hoof wall itself, this particular area here. So there's actually 3 layers to this area. And of course, there's the outer layer, there's the middle layer, and then there's the inner layer as well. And we can call the outer layer the stratum externum. The middle part we can call the stratum medium, and then the inner part we call the stratum intrum, if you want to get pretty technical about the situation. But with our presentation, we're just going to talk about the outer, the middle, and the inner wall as far as the layer itself. Now, the part of the wall that's affected is the middle part. And we might ask the question, well, why is only the middle part affected, not the outer and not the inner? Okay? And then the next question we might ask, well, what is it that's causing the problem? Well, we have a couple of companions that like to work together, hand in hand. One of them is bacteria, and then the other one is fungi. Okay? And for some reason, we can say that the bacteria might be the leader of the pack, because bacteria and fungi is ever present in the environment. Bacteria is searching for an opportunity to get inside the hoof capsule itself. And once it does that, it's going to set up shop, and then it gives an opportunity for fungi to come in and do its thing. So that's what the area that's affected is, the middle part there. And the reason that the outer part is not affected is, number one, it's much denser, it's much harder, and it's exposed to the oxygen. The thing that we haven't pointed out, and that we need to do this about the bacteria, that it's anaerobic, meaning that it thrives in the absence of oxygen. So there is oxygen in that outer layer there. There is no oxygen in the middle area, but there is oxygen in that inner layer simply because of the proximity to the live tissue that's present. So we have oxygen that's present, we have nutrients that's present there as well. So the middle part is what's being affected there. Okay?
Gotcha.
Did we pull up the slide on our first slide wheel? I'm sorry. If you take a look at this slide here, and you take a look at this foot here, you see the areas, even back in the heel area, back in the toe area, where we've got this wall separation that started in this particular hoof capsule here. And this is some of the early stages that we're going to see when we talk about having a white line problem. This is visible. Sometimes white line we don't see this way until we end up with a major problem itself. Okay? So, I think we're at the point, Corbin, that we can ask our first question.
Oh, wow. You already want to get into a trivia question,
yes,
huh?
I think we ought to go ahead and do that and break the ice on that. And let's give everybody an opportunity to participate.
Okay. All right, let me get into the first question out. Okay, guys, for those in the United States, we are doing our very first trivia question of the live event.
Right.
We'll give you about 2 minutes or so to put in your answer, and we will randomly select someone who got the answer correct. So I'll read the question. You have 2 minutes to answer, and of course the winner will receive this prize pack. Okay, so first question: what part of the hoof wall is affected by white line disease?
We've answered that.
Yeah, we have answered that. Again, that's what part of the hoof wall is affected by white line disease. And so during this time, you have 2 minutes. Good luck to everybody. Again, this is just for those in the United States. And in the meantime, I've been looking through the comments and I've seen a few questions.
Okay.
And since I'm quizzing them, I'm also going to quiz you.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Go right ahead.
And so first off, I've seen a few comments just about internet issues. Of course, this is a live stream. And so if, it could be something with your internet, it could be something, different factors that might affect, the stream. So just be patient with us. And if you need to refresh your browser, that could also possibly help. Okay, so a couple questions. I know we had someone ask, I guess, can laminitic horses also get white line disease?
Absolutely. In fact, with and especially chronic laminitis. And with chronic laminitis, we're going to have wall separation there. And of course, we're going to talk about this in more detail here in a few minutes. But anytime you have wall separation, that's just an open point for additional bacteria to enter, set up shop, and start a case of white line disease.
Absolutely.
You sure can.
Absolutely. Okay, we had someone else ask, in the image that we showed, are the dark veins in the light sole caused by the white line disease?
No, that's some bacteria there itself, the black lines itself there, not necessarily from the white line disease itself, no.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
The white line disease is going to be in that middle area of the hoof wall.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I think we're getting close to our 2 minutes. Let me check with Will. Will, do we have a winner? Okay, he says we do. And just as a reminder, when we do these live events, we always announce the winners here live. So we won't message you or anything along those lines. Of course, with Facebook and different streaming services, when you do contests, sometimes you have people try to take advantage of other people. So again, we'll never ask for credit cards or anything like that. We won't message you or friend you or anything along those lines. All the announcements will happen here live or via email from our cservice@lifedatalabs.com. Okay, Will, who's the winner?
The winner for the first question is Mary Dickerson.
Mary Dickerson, congratulations. You've won our prize pack. Again, that's going to come with a Life Data hoof clay, a farrier's finish, a cap, a yellow t-shirt, and a breeder's formula, which is our hair and coat supplement for anxiety and so on for dogs. Sure. So if you've got a little canine friend, that is a wonderful supplement to add to their diet. So congratulations. You're going to email cservice@lifedatalabs.com. In the subject line, put live giveaway winner, and we're going to need your address so we can make sure to ship this to the right address, and then your t-shirt size so we can make sure we get you a t-shirt.
And does she have to take the yellow, or does she have another choice?
She doesn't have to take the yellow. If you'd like a different color, we have teal and green as well.
Sure.
So that is definitely an option there.
Okay.
All right, Mike. Well, we've talked about, of course. Oh, I forgot the answer. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. So the question was, what part of the hoof wall is affected by white line disease? And that, of course, as Mike has mentioned several times, that is the middle area there. And of course, we've talked about, that's bacteria and fungi that are eating into that hoof, getting into that hoof. But how does that bacteria get into the hoof to start with?
Okay. So first of all, it is a bacterial invasion, number one. Okay. So, and once that bacteria gets into the hoof capsule, then it's going to set up shop. And if it can get into the middle part there where there is no oxygen, then that anaerobic bacteria is going to thrive. And for whatever reason, that kind of opens up the door for its buddy there, the fungi, to come in and start digesting that particular area. And their goal is to go toward the coronary band. Okay? Of course, this is a gradual process, all right? It doesn't happen overnight. And a lot of times I'm afraid that we actually don't catch this until we get to the point where we're in trouble. And the horse becomes lame at that point in time. or our farrier makes the visit and the farrier picks up on it. In fact, the farrier is the one in most cases that's going to pick up on a problem of white line disease. All right. Now, how, and your question was, how does bacteria get into this hoof capsule? All right.
Absolutely.
So, and there are many, many ways that can take place. And the first thing that I'd like to talk about are mechanical factors that are going to contribute to the bacteria entering the capsule itself. One is a long toe. In other words, if we don't maintain a regular farrier schedule, we go too long, the toe gets too long. What that does is that actually puts more leverage on the toe part itself, causing some stretching of that white line area, giving us an entry point for the bacteria itself. And Will, if you can kind of zoom in here for me, this is actually a hoof model, and the point is here that we've gone way too long before it was actually trimmed. And let me turn it this way maybe to kind of give you a different view here. And so the opposite side here, we went ahead and trimmed that. But when your toe gets this long, we're applying more leverage at this point. And if you can actually see this, and maybe you can, it's going to be a whole lot wider here in this particular area. And that means that we've had expansion, we've had stretching there, and we've got a weakened point there, and that becomes a direct point for bacteria to get into the hoof capsule itself.
Absolutely.
So let's maintain a regular farrier schedule, and let's not let that happen as well.
Okay, and we had one question regarding farrier.
Okay.
So I figured this is a good time.
Sure.
And I think we're going to get into this, but can improper farrier work possibly cause white line disease?
You're right. Okay. Not only do we want to avoid the long toe, but we need a proper trim where the foot is balanced. So if we have a foot that's out of balance, whether that's either from front to heel or from side to side, then that's actually putting undue pressure as well in that particular area, causing the same stretching that we can have in the toe with a long toe. Yes, good question. Okay,
absolutely. So we have both ways, right? If you're
That's right.
not doing the farrier, not having the farrier out, you can have the problem as well, right? So it kind of goes both ways there.
But the balance is critical.
Absolutely.
That's the most important thing to a shoeing job is the trim part. Okay, balance.
Absolutely.
Highly critical. Okay. We can have a horse that has a club foot. That will contribute to the situation as well. We could have sheared heels. We could have, as we just mentioned, a balance problem as well. So a mechanical issue or a conformation issue or a distortion in the hoof capsule can lead to a white line problem. All right? Now, another thing that's going to lead to a white line problem, or can lead to a white line problem, is the environment. We have wet conditions, we have dry conditions, and then the two companions that we talked about, bacteria and fungi, are ever present. Okay? Now, in a wet situation, what happens is that hoof capsule wants to soften. And the hoof wall wants to weaken. And a lot of times we will have some pancaking of that foot. We'll actually have some stretching of the white line again. And once again, an entry point for bacteria as well. Now, we often associate white line disease with excess moisture, but that's really not the case. Okay, we can be in a very dry, arid area where we need moisture. And so what that hoof capsule does at that point in time is it wants to do the opposite. It wants to contract And as it contracts, then we can end up with some cracks. We can end up with chipping. Once again, entry point for bacteria into the hoof capsule itself. So the environment comes into play as a reason or a contributing factor of getting bacteria into the capsule. I'm sure that most of you, if you've owned a horse, you've had a problem with an abscess, and you've had to deal with an abscess. Well, number one, that tells me that we've got maybe some hoof quality issues to begin with that may have created the abscess. So if we've got an abscess, then we had a point for bacteria to begin with. And then, of course, after that abscess ruptures, then we have a direct entry back into the hoof capsule as well.
Absolutely.
Something that we don't think about a lot of times, but with the horses that are actually shod, we actually have old nail holes. And when that shoe is reset there, those old nail holes become a direct entry point right in underneath the hoof wall itself. Okay? Laminitis. And we talked about this earlier. If we have a case of chronic laminitis, a lot of times we have the wall separation there, we have the prolapsed heel, we have the hoof wall that wants to turn up in the front. In a lot of our severe cases, direct entry point for white line bacteria. And a lot of times chronic laminitis and white line will kind of go hand in hand. In fact, sometimes we will actually mistake a case of laminitis when it's actually white line disease. Okay, they go hand in hand. And of course, anytime we have a crack, a chip, crumbling hoof wall, entry point for bacteria into the hoof capsule itself. Now, Corbin, we're ready for question number 2.
Question number 2. All right.
We're moving right along.
Let me pull out my questions here. Okay, so all our viewers in the United States, we have the second trivia question. Again, we're going to give you about 2 minutes or so to answer that question. If you answer it correctly, everyone who does answer it correctly, we're going to pick one random person out of those individuals who's going to receive our next prize pack. Again, this is just for those in the United States, and that's unfortunately due to some international giveaway laws that prevent us from extending that out any further. Well, I thought I had pulled the questions. Here we go. Okay, so question number 2 is, white line disease is an invasion of what in the hoof wall?
And I think we've
mentioned that many times. Yeah. White line disease is an invasion of what in the hoof wall? You have 2 minutes. Good luck. And in the meantime, I'm going to give Mike some trivia and see what we can do here.
Okay.
Well, first off, I've seen a lot of people ask questions regarding treatment.
Okay.
And so we are going to get to the treatment.
It's going to be the last thing that we talk about.
And that's just white line disease, and of course several of equine problems that we have. A lot of, it's not a magical treatment. You can put anything you want on the hoof, but if that hoof isn't balanced, that's going to cause problems as well. And so, kind of this whole presentation is treatment
and prevention.
And prevention, right?
Right.
So, and so it's an ongoing process, but we will get to applications, what to look for on the back of labels, what works, what doesn't work, and so on. So I promise we'll get there. So we're not ignoring your questions, but we will get there. Okay, so one of the questions that we had, Mike, was what about the difference between white line and thrush? Is it just the area affected?
It's the area that's affected, yes. With white line, it's the middle part of the hoof wall. With thrush, it's either side of the frog or the central part of the frog. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thrush, basically, that bacteria is trying to consume the frog itself, is what it's trying to do. Whereas with white line, it's trying to consume the middle layer of the hoof wall.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Someone else, they wanted to know, does the bacteria, can it be transferred from one horse to another from, say, farrier tools or anything along those lines?
I haven't come across anything that would suggest that in any way.
Okay.
No.
Well, just to go on with that.
And the reason is that the type of bacteria is anaerobic. So once that bacteria hits the air, it's done.
Absolutely.
The air kills it. Oxygen kills it.
And then on reverse side of that, I mean, you could technically have two horses standing in the same pasture, have one develop it and not have the other one because maybe that other one has better hoof quality.
Absolutely. Right. In other words, the one that doesn't have the white line may have a tighter hoof wall junction there. No cracks, no chips, good sound, solid, healthy, very dense hoof capsule.
Absolutely.
And no bacteria can get into that hoof capsule then. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's some good questions. One last one, and then we'll announce the winner. Would this be the same in a donkey? I have a donkey from a rescue who has white line disease.
Absolutely. It's the same situation, just a different species of animal there. And donkeys are prone to white line disease, yes.
Yep. And then I guess I'm going to take this one just real quick, just because it is a quick one. Virginia would like to know, with old nail holes, can they be sealed with something? We have this hoof clay product. It's actually part of the giveaway for answering this question correctly.
Yep.
And that will actually add as a clay putty, and that can actually go right into the nail hole. That will stay in place. I opened it and I could smell the tea tree oil and different ingredients in there. And that's going to help fight off the bacteria and then also protect those old nail holes.
And it's going to prevent anything from entering into and getting underneath the hoof capsule.
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay, well, let's pick a winner real quick. So for question number 2, white line disease is an invasion of what in the hoof wall? And of course, that's bacteria and fungi.
Right.
So of course, you could say anaerobic bacteria. You know, there's a couple different versions of that answer. Okay, Will, we have a winner?
Yeah, the winner is Terry Miller.
Terry Miller, congratulations. Please email cservice@lifedatalabs.com. Again, that is cservice@lifedatalabs.com. Down at the bottom, I believe that email is scrolling in the green if you'd like to make sure you have it spelled correctly. In the subject line, just put live giveaway winner. We will need your street address to make sure that we send it to the right person. And then we will also need your t-shirt size so we can get you a t-shirt. So congratulations. And no worries, we still have one more live trivia question. And then, of course, stay tuned because we will talk more about our grand prize giveaway. And the link for the grand prize giveaway is also scrolling at the bottom. At any time, you can put that into your browser, go to that link and enter in that contest. But, of course, we have our secret keyword that we'll give on a little bit later in the presentation that will help everyone who's watched it live have a little bit better chance of winning.
That's right. Sure. Right.
Absolutely.
The other point that I'd like to bring up, and we'll spend just a few minutes on this, and that's nutrition. And what nutrition does to help improve hoof quality overall. And so nutrition involves, number one, feeding a balanced diet to the horse. And we always want to feed a balanced diet to the horse. All right? That's our goal there. Now, sometimes if we have a horse that we're feeding a balanced diet to, may still need a little help additionally if they still have a hoof issue. And so at that point in time, we can add a hoof supplement to the mix specifically for the improvement of dermal tissue or the hoof, skin, and hair coat as well. All right?
Absolutely.
So a balanced diet is what we're after, number one. And I'm going to give you some examples here where we have an imbalance and what an imbalance will actually do to the hoof capsule, how it's going to compromise that hoof capsule. And any time that we have a compromised hoof capsule, then I think we're trying to get this point across that bacteria has a direct entry point at that point in
Absolutely.
time. Okay.
It's like a castle wall, right? You know, that wall is broken. The things you want to keep out come in.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Okay. So, Will, if you will bring up our next slide for us. I think that would be slide number 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's up. It's right there.
And as you can see here, we have a pretty nasty hoof capsule. And you see the ridges, you see the crustiness there that's going on. And all that was created from nutrition. It was from an improper, an excess of selenium that was being fed to this horse. And so this is a prime example when we overdo selenium. And typically, essentially what we're shooting for is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 5 milligrams per day, which is very minimal, but the horse still needs that. Of course, if you're in an area that is selenium deficient, then a lot of times selenium is going to be added to the feeds that you're providing. If the hay that you're feeding is coming in from a different part of the U.S. or a different part of the world, wherever you may be, then it may be in high in selenium as well. So there's many factors that go into coming up with this total amount of selenium that horse is consuming on a daily basis as well. So this is one example of excess selenium itself. And what is happening here, the excess selenium actually replaces the sulfur that's needed by the foot of the horse itself. And that just gives structure to the foot. And of course, as you could see in that selenium deficient hoof, that it is severely compromised. Now, another example that we'll take a look at, which is already up.
Well, he's about to switch it now. There
Okay.
we go.
All right, is this one right here. And this is simply a case where we were feeding excess bran. And that could be wheat bran, that could be rice bran, that could be oat bran.
Absolutely.
Any of those there. And bran is just simply a byproduct of the grain.
You know, and this right here, you know, as you were talking about, as far as, you know, the kind of hoof wall having openings and so on, this picture is a perfect representation.
Right.
I mean, you can just see from that picture how easy it would be for bacteria and so on to penetrate that
You
hoof.
can see the crumbling hoof horn there.
Absolutely.
Direct entry point for bacteria. Okay. And so what bran has that a horse does not need is phytates. And phytates are extremely high in phosphorus. And so what we're doing is we're getting our calcium phosphorus ratio out of balance. And when we get too much phosphorus in the diet of the horse, then that ties up the needed calcium. It doesn't allow the horse to absorb it. And of course, the calcium, if we want to look at it this way, is the glue that actually holds that hoof capsule together. So if we lose the glue, then the foot starts falling apart, just like we were looking at there.
Absolutely.
All right, that's another example of an imbalanced diet. Okay. Will, if you'll bring up the next slide for me. And it's up right now. And of course, if you look closely here, you've got all kind of issues at the end of the hoof wall there. And it actually looks like we've got finger-like projections that are growing out of the end of the hoof wall. And this is created from a vitamin A, either a deficiency or an excess. And in most cases, it's created from an excess simply because we provide too much vitamin A to the horse itself. And of course, this one is a little funny. You get the same clinical signs whether you have too much or not enough of vitamin A. Okay? And of course, that's just a direct point, entry point for bacteria once again.
Absolutely.
I don't have a slide for this, but another problem that we can get into can come about from too much methionine in the diet of the horse. Most of what we feed, as far as a complete feed, is going to have methionine in it. If we're feeding 2 or 3 supplements to the horse, then you can almost bet that every one of those are going to have methionine in them as well. Okay?
Absolutely.
So, how does that affect the hoof and hoof quality? Where we have too much methionine, then it actually mimics white line disease, where we have wall separation, just like white line disease. But it wasn't caused from bacteria and fungi. It was because of an excess of methionine in the diet of the horse. All right. Zinc. If we have a zinc deficiency in the horse, and this is kind of an odd one here, with a zinc deficiency, we have extreme hoof growth, fast hoof growth, and hoof growth to the point where it needs to be trimmed every 10 to 14 days with a zinc deficiency. Of course, if you can imagine, when you have that quick a hoof growth, it's very poor quality. It's going to want to break and chip very easy. Once again, direct entry point for bacteria into the hoof wall itself.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, the one thing that I've kind of have witnessed or seen through, especially you talking here, is that when we're talking about nutrition with the horse and an imbalance, you know, you might just automatically assume that they're not getting something, but it could be that they're getting too much. So just, you know, throwing everything in the kitchen sink into their diet is not the way to go. And it's really finding that balance, right? Finding
balanced diet.
Absolutely.
And providing that horse with what it needs on a daily basis and in the right proportion and ratio to each other, so that one doesn't interfere with the absorption of another one. Balance.
That's one, you know, if you've been to some of our other presentations, you probably have heard us talk about, you know, how the recipe matters, you know, and then this is just one reason why, you know, because you really want to make sure that that is balanced and your horse is receiving that balanced diet. And we're going to go a little bit further into what we're looking for in a diet a little bit going. I saw someone ask about, you know, what we kind of recommend to feed the horse, and that's something that we are also going to get onto a little bit here in a little bit.
Yeah. All right, we're ready for question.
Number three.
We are.
Okay. Okay, guys. So this is question number 3. Again, you're going to have about 2 minutes to answer this question. Out of those who got it correct, we will randomly choose someone who will win our final prize pack. If you do not win one of these 3, no worries. Of course, we have our grand prize that'll be announced here in a little bit that you could still win. All right. So question number 3. You want to read this one because I've done the last 2. Do you want to do this one? I'll let you do our questions.
Question number 3 is, and we've answered this one and answered this one. The horse should be fed a blank diet. The horse should be fed a blank diet. What type of diet do we provide feed our horse?
Absolutely. This is something we just got done talking about.
That's right.
It should be pretty simple. Let's see. I see again. We got a lot of questions about feeding. And so of course we're gonna get to that.
When we talk about feeding, Corbin, the natural diet of any horse has always been grass, and it still is today. Okay,
absolutely.
That's forage and hay.
Absolutely.
That's our basic there.
Well, you know, I know that you know, of course, we talk about a lot about the balance and what's important for the hoof. You want to talk a little bit about maybe some of the research that we've done here at Life Data to find a lot of these measurements and nutrients and so on?
Sure. In fact, Life Data Labs has been around, 45 years now?
Absolutely.
From its inception. And in fact, the founder of Life Data Labs is Dr. Frank Gravely, and he was always, or still is, very research-minded. And of course, he is a veterinarian, and of course, in his practice, he was troubled with the fact that he was having to deal with horses that had foot issues. And he quickly come to realize that, you know, something was missing nutritionally from these horses. And so Dr. Gravely actually set up a lab. He done extensive research on these horses that had these problematic feet, and he was actually able to determine what was missing and what needed to be added to the diet and in the right proportion and ratio with each other in order to grow good, healthy dermal tissue in the horse. And a lot of our diets today will not contain everything a horse needs nutritionally to do that. And so that's when a hoof supplement comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I will mention ours at this point. Ours is Ferris Formula, which has been around 40 plus years as well. And of course, being a research-minded company, we still do research in-house in our lab today and pulling blood samples from horses that have specific health issues, health problems. And some of the products that we've released over the past couple of years, there's been a sweat formula that we've released. There's a formula that has been released for horses with Cushing's. And one that has really taken off here in the last year is our lamina formula. And the lamina formula came about through this blood research. In fact, we were able, or through the lab, Dr. Scott Gravely was able to determine certain deficiencies that are in that group. And we're talking a group of horses that have laminitis or have foundered. Certain deficiencies there and certain excesses that needed to be corrected. And so the lamina is a great companion to Ferris Formula as well.
Absolutely.
And of course, we continue to do research today. And if you have a horse that would fall into any of these categories here, and you would like that horse to be a part of the ongoing research, reach out to us.
Absolutely.
We'll be glad to talk to you.
Absolutely. You can just email that cservice at lifedatalabs.com. And of course, you mentioned how Life Data is so research-minded. I think it's also, important to mention, Ferris Formula is the only hoof supplement on the market that has a white paper.
That's right.
And so
when we mean white paper, we mean that it's actually been published.
Veterinary record.
In the veterinary record. And this is we have one that's been done on Ferris Formula, yes. This happens to be one that was done on one of our antimicrobials as well. So yes.
So that research is out there, where it was shown where Ferris Formula did what we say it does.
That's right. Sure.
Okay, well, I know we probably talked a little bit over 2 minutes, and we've got some entries here, and I believe Will's got us a winner. So the answer to that last question
is a balanced diet.
Is a balanced diet.
Right.
Balance.
Everything has to be in balance.
Absolutely, not only nutritionally, but even hoof-wise with farrier work.
That's right.
Balance is important.
Sure.
Okay, Will, so who's won this last one?
The winner is Tamra Williamson.
Tamra Williamson. Congratulations. Email cservice at lifedatalabs.com. That email address should be scrolling in that bottom bar at the bottom when it comes by, so you can see how it's spelled. Again, that's cservice at lifedatalabs.com. In the subject line, you can just put live giveaway winner, and you'll be winning the hoof clay, which we talked about for a little bit today when it came to old nail holes, the farrier's finish, which is great for environmental issues, a t-shirt, a hat, and then our breeder's formula, which again, that's for, of course, our canine friends.
Right. So absolutely.
Let's see.
Are we ready to continue on, or do you have a question?
Well, Mike, I do have one. We did have someone kind of ask, will the farrier, if you're doing a regular farrier appointments and they're coming regularly, will the farrier be able to notice this?
Yes.
And then also on top of that, what can the horse owners do to visualize and see this coming as well?
Well, the horse owner is going to be with the horse on a daily basis. And of course, maintenance, number one, as far as the hoof itself, is highly important. And that involves picking up the foot, cleaning the foot. And of course, anytime you clean out the foot on either side of the frog there in the central part, you're going to detect any changes that are going on there. In fact, if you pick up the foot and you start cleaning it out and you come across this foul smelling odor, then you got a problem that's going on there. More than likely it could be thrush or whatever. Of course, if you have a barefoot horse and you're beginning to see some separation there in that white line area, then you've got a problem that started and you need to jump on that at that point in time. Of course, if your horse is shod, then your farrier is going to come out, do a reset. He's going to trim before he nails the shoe back on, and he's going to know if there's any wall separation at that point in time as well. And we have a great product, and we've already mentioned it once today, and that's our hoof clay. But as a preventative measure to help avoid, hopefully, the case of a white line problem, if you can get your farrier to use this hoof clay underneath the shoe before they nail it on, that clay is going to help protect that sensitive white line area there, and it's going to help fight off any bacteria that would want to be present at that point as well. And if you do have some separation that has started, then your farrier can clean that out, pack that clay into that area, completely fill that up, and then nail the shoe on top of that, and that's going to help clean that up between resets as well. So yes, the horse owner is part of treating a white line issue. By all means.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And one of the things we always kind of recommend too is having a conversation with your farrier. Asking questions. What do you see? What are some things I can look for? And being part of that, because to have really good hoof care, like Mike said, you're seeing that horse every day, and it takes daily maintenance to really keep those hoofs as healthy as possible.
Okay. Of course, our time is quickly coming to an end here, so let's talk about some clinical signs, some symptoms that we're going to see, say at the beginning of a white line problem. And Will, let's take a look at this big foot right here. I hope that you can see this here, but you see all this black that's going on right here.
I want to bring it in a little closer.
Okay, a little bit closer to you. Okay, we good there? But anyway, you see all this crumbling that's going on here at the end of the hoof wall. You see all this black that's going on here. That's bacteria that's working on the foot of the horse. And if I flip this over right here, maybe you can see this, but we actually have some wall separation here in the toe that we can actually stick a hoof nail into to a certain point there. If you look back here in the heels, you can actually see the separation that's going on there. And basically this is the start of some white line disease there. That's just a direct entry point for bacteria to get in, set up shop, and then try to progress toward the coronary band then. So that's one thing that we need to be mindful of. If we got anything going on like this, we got separation, then that is a definite giveaway itself. A lot of times where we have a soft hoof capsule, that white line is going to be stretched. It becomes wider, in other words, and especially in the toe area. And if that is the case, then you need to be on alert at that point in time. We don't want that to get out of hand as well. And we have a product specifically to help you with wet and dry conditions, plus fight off the bacteria that's present as well. Another thing is if we actually have a case of white line itself, and we don't really have, well, we have a start of white line right here in the back of the heel. We actually have separation at this point right here, and we have separation on into the quarter here as well. But a lot of times with the beginning of white line, we're going to have kind of a gray or a powdery substance that we're going to find, kind of a chalky substance, at the beginning of a case of white line disease as well.
Now, Mike, if, like, say, for example, a horse owner picks up the hoof and they are going to clean out these areas, how would you suggest the best way to do that?
Well, where we have a horse that's barefoot, a dental tool works great. A horseshoe nails works great. Where we're going to come in here and we're just going to clean that area out as deep as we can get it.
And how about those old nail holes? Just
Old
the same
nail
thing?
holes are the same way. Of course, after the shoe has been reset, then we can take the clay and pack here. Let me just do a little demonstration right here.
Yep.
This is actually the clay. It's a very soft, putty-like product, very tacky. and say where we have the wall separation that started here, let's go in and clean that out as good as we can. And then we can take the clay and then we're just going to pack it and fill that void.
Absolutely. Now that is designed to stay in place. How many times a week do you think they would?
Under normal conditions, we should have enough residual left there for like 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
We'll come back, we'll clean that out, and we'll repack that.
Mm-hmm.
And what that's doing is that's holding the active ingredients in place, which is tea tree oil and tame iodine.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to kill any bacteria that would be present, and then it's going to keep anything from re-entering that point as well.
Now, if you are in a wet environment, you may have to apply it, a little bit sooner. But as we said, picking up those feet every single day will kind of help you determine how many times you need to do it and whatnot.
Another clinical sign or something that we're going to see with a white line problem is that the hoof wall may become dished.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, anytime that happens, that's going to stretch the white line area there. Another thing that we often hear too is my horse won't hold a shoe between resets. And so if you got some issues underneath the hoof wall, then you essentially don't have a whole lot to nail to.
Mm-hmm.
And that horse more than likely is going to pull a shoe at some point before that farrier is scheduled to return to do the reset then. Worst case scenarios, we're going to end up with lameness.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have a lameness issue, that means that the problem has progressed severely.
Mm-hmm.
We have quite a bit of wall separation that's going on there, and that's actually causing some lameness issues at that point in time. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, in severe cases, white line disease can actually mimic a case of laminitis.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times the only way that we will distinguish the difference between is it a white line disease or is it laminitis, and that's through radiographs. And that's where a vet comes into play. And through those x-rays, a determination can be made, and then the proper treatment protocol put into place for whatever the case may be at that point. Then.
Absolutely. Okay, well, Mike, we've talked about the causes. We've talked about, some of the signs.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about several things. But as far as these people watching today, what do you recommend as far as the treatment method?
Okay, there's several things that we need to entertain when it comes to treatment. All right, the first thing that I would throw out there is to prevent the problem to begin with. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Prevention is the key.
Absolutely.
Okay, now,
A lot easier to prevent a problem than it is to fix a problem.
if we do end up with some wall separation and some white line disease, we need to correct whatever caused the problem to begin with. If it was a long toe, then we need to correct our farrier schedule. We need to maintain a regular farrier schedule to prevent that from happening there. If it's some form of a hoof wall distortion that can be corrected that caused the white line problem, then we need to correct that. So if we'll correct these issues in advance, then hopefully once we resolve the issue, then it's not going to return at that point, okay? We've mentioned this, and this falls on the shoulder of the farriers. That foot has to be balanced, okay? In extreme cases, and we'll go ahead and put this slide up for us, please. Extreme cases, we're going to have to do a hoof wall resection, okay? That's going to involve your veterinarian. It's going to involve your farrier as well. And in a hoof wall resection, what we're doing, or what they're doing, is they're removing this old hoof wall where there's nothing underneath it, and they're taking that back to good tissue. And then what they're doing is they're exposing that to the air itself. And of course, if you remember from the get-go, the type of bacteria is anaerobic. And so that's why we want to do this in extreme cases like this right here. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we hope that you never have to get to this point and have to do that. because that's pretty ugly.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, that is the treatment protocol in those cases like that, okay? And of course, anytime we have to do a resect, then we need to follow the advice of our veterinarian and a farrier, whatever they tell you to do then. And of course, anytime we have to do a resection like this, it's going to increase the frequency of the farrier visits as well. In fact, that farrier may have to come out every 2 weeks to keep an eye on this. And then once again, it falls directly back on the shoulders of the horse owner to keep this area clean and to keep that area dry as well, okay?
And also promote that hoof health.
That's right. In fact, that's exactly right. In fact, that was my next point there.
Stole it from you.
You stole it from me. And it's up to the horse owner to provide that horse with nutritional support to regrow what's been debrided then, okay? And of course, in a situation that you're looking there at this particular hoof wall, of course, you got the front of the hoof wall that's involved. You actually got part of the quarter that's been resected in this situation. You're looking at probably a year to completely regrow this foot back out, to grow the old problem foot out and then replace it with a new sound foot. And that's where nutritional support comes into play. And then let me spend just a minute talking about one option that you have as far as a hoof supplement. And that's actually Farrier's formula. The green bag is our double strength version. That's going to be a 60-day supply for a 1,000-pound horse at a half a cup or 3 ounces per day. It takes about 2-3 months to actually start this new hoof growth that you'll actually see at the coronary band, and then another 7, 8, 9 months to completely regrow the old foot out.
Absolutely.
And of course, it's doing that internally, and that's what we're after there. It's this internal growth. And as it grows that foot out, it's going to strengthen the internal part of the foot. It's going to thicken and strengthen the hoof wall. It's going to thicken the sole of the foot. And as it reaches completion, it's going to give us a good, tight sole hoof wall junction there.
Absolutely.
And so if we can end up with a good, healthy, sound foot, hopefully we won't ever have another case of white line disease and have to do a resect that we just took a look at there.
And for any of our anyone watching in Europe, this might be known as Farrier's Formula Double Concentrate, or just, of course, there's also just Farrier's Formula as well. And so, of course, here in the States, it's known as Farrier's Formula Double Strength. And then we also have the Double Strength Plus Joint for those horse owners who may also not only have a white line disease problem or a hoof problem, but a joint problem. That's going to deliver the same nutrients as the Farrier's Formula Double Strength, just with the additional support for joint health. Move those back.
And then something else that we can do as well, I think Farrier's Finish comes into play as well. It's a very mild, it's a conditioner antimicrobial, so it's going to help fight off any bacteria that would want to eat on the foot itself.
Is this one open here?
No, but this one is here. But
well, the other good thing about the Farrier's Finish is that it is non-caustic. Right. So I can put that on my hands. That's kind of our number one rule when it comes to chemical, or it comes to topicals, is stay away from the caustic stuff. The stuff that burns, the stuff that can basically damage the proteins of the hoof.
And where you've done a resect like this, you've got some very sensitive tissue there.
Absolutely.
And so you really don't need to apply a caustic material that's going to burn. and kill that good tissue.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, a caustic material will actually slow down hoof growth, and that's not what we want if we've had a resect.
Absolutely.
We want some hoof growth there.
Absolutely.
And plus, we want some good quality hoof growth in the process as well. Yeah.
And the other thing to kind of consider, of course, is when you're looking at topicals. We know there's several different remedies and so on out there. But using something that such as Farrier's Finish, there's ingredients in there that are not only going to kill the bacteria, but as Mike mentioned, it's going to help with the moisture, and it's going to do more than just kill that bacteria. It's going to support that hoof environmentally, keeping that moisture away, of course, killing the bacteria, and so on. But yeah, that's the number one. If you can't put it on your own skin, don't put it on.
Stay
your
away
horse.
from it, right? And if you have a white line issue, then you talk to your farrier, talk to your veterinarian, follow their advice, do what they tell you to do.
We did have someone ask about Farrier's formula and how young you can start feeding it.
You can start feeding the brood mare while she's carrying the foal. That's when you can start.
Yeah.
So it's very safe to feed a foal. As soon as a foal gets big enough to start eating and nibbling, perfect.
We've actually had numerous stories where they feed it to the brood mare,
Right.
and then of course the baby comes and the hoofs are beautiful, right from the get go.
So one of the best things that we can do when it comes to white line is, number one, detect it early, head it off. Okay. If we let it get out of hand, then we need to call in our farrier or veterinarian, take their advice. If we have to do a resect, then follow their instructions and what you need to do there, okay?
We did have someone also ask examples for caustic products. Of course, that's really anything that's going to burn. So if you look on the back of the labels and so on, you can usually see, there's going to be a, do not put on your skin, do not, different warnings like that. And those what we mean by caustic is just anything that's going to burn your hands, burn the horse. That's just, like I said, you can look on the back of the labels and it will say.
It will tell you if it's caustic, number one. There'll be a warning label there. A lot of times that warning label will tell you, as Corbin said, don't get it on your skin. Avoid getting it into your eyes.
On your clothes.
And some of those you cannot breathe as well because of the harm that's going to do to you in that process, okay?
Absolutely. All right, sorry, I keep jumping in on you.
Oh, that's all right. We're coming to an end now. In fact, we're about 10 after 3 here.
Okay.
So is there any questions?
Yeah, well, we've got a grand prize giveaway. We haven't talked about that.
We need to take care of that. Yes, we do.
So throughout this course, this presentation, our recommendation as far as white line disease and recovering from white line disease, preventing it, is, of course, feeding the Farrier's formula, applying the finish, and applying the clay.
Yeah, apply the clay for specific problem spots you've got in the sole or the hoof capsule itself.
Absolutely. You're going to feed the Farrier's formula to promote the new hoof growth and to keep that hoof healthy. You're going to use the clay to protect those cracks and those openings that we've talked about. And then you're going to use the finish to help keep not only keep it from becoming too soft from wet environments, but also too dry from dry environments. And so these 3 products here is really what we recommend as far as preventing and, of course, treating. So for our grand prize giveaway, I'm going to give away
that
3 of these
3
packages.
of those, okay.
So 3 people are going to win exactly what they need
our complete hoof care package.
A complete hoof care package. That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
So that link to our grand prize has been scrolling in the bottom of that green. In your browser, you can put, again, lifedata.live/win. Go there, fill out, register yourself. And then there are a few things that you can do to increase your chances to win. So every time you send that contest to one of your friends, that's going to increase your chances to win. You're going to get more entries for every single person that you know who fills out that information as well. Then there's also the code word. And the code word today is hoof clay.
Okay.
So that's the code word today is hoof clay. And again, I chose that one just because one of the big white line diseases is protecting those openings. So hoof clay is the key word. That's going to give you a tremendous amount. And that's kind of as a thank you for of course joining us today and helping you win this. And then there are a few other steps that you can take as well. Of course, visiting our Facebook, visiting our YouTube and our Instagram. If you're not already following us, it'd be great to have you following us. We of course plan on continuing to do more of these presentations, and we actually have our next one scheduled. So if our next one is going to be in October, and Will, if you'll post that for me. And so that's we're going to talk about preparing your horse for winter. I know October may seem a little bit early, but it takes a few months preparing your horse for that winter. You want to be ahead of it. You don't want to wait until that cold hits and then be scrambling, to prepare your horse for that winter. So that link is right there. You can also find it on our Facebook, and you can again just register for that, just like you did for this one. And so that will be our next one. We hope that you can join us. Mike, you want to talk about a little bit what we're going to talk about during that one?
Of course, one of the things that we'll talk about is preparing your horse nutritionally for the winter months. And one of the groups of horses that struggles during the winter months will be your hard keepers. So we'll address some things that we can do to help maybe put on a few pounds before winter gets here to help that hard keeper make it through the winter itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially the elderly horses as well.
Sure.
That of course, like you said, might be hard keepers.
And of course, if any of you on a personal basis has to deal with arthritis, what the cold weather does. And of course, a joint supplement might go a long way for that hard keeper, that horse that has a little age on it as well. And now would be a good time to go ahead and start the process.
Absolutely.
Get it into the system of the horse.
Maybe talk about hay a little bit.
Yep. Of course, hay's going to come into play, or pastures kind of fall by the wayside depending on what part of the U.S. or the world you're in and whether you have a cool season or a warm season grass. So, yeah, hay's going to become a big factor as well. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. And talk about a little bit about hay quality and what happens to hay over a period of time, the nutritional loss that's going to take place in the hay, and what we need to do to supplement to make up the difference nutritionally in our hay, which would be a forage balancer as well. So yeah, there's many things that we can address when we talk about winterizing our horse, so to speak. Yeah.
Well, I know that we fit a lot into an hour, and I know we didn't answer everyone's questions. So if you still have a question, email us at cservice@lifedataLabs.com. Message us here on Facebook. Both me and Mike, we are here. Dr. Scott, he's here. Dr. Scott Gravely. We're here to answer your questions. So please send those over. Don't hesitate. Because we would love to help you. We know taking care of your horse is a big job. And I think someone mentioned here earlier, when it comes to horses, there's so many questions and so many different theories and methods.
Absolutely.
So message us.
Sure.
We're here to talk to you. We're here to help you. Come see us at the different expos. If you see our booth, don't hesitate to walk up to Mike and introduce yourself, because he would love to meet you. I'd love to meet you. And until then, I hope to see you guys on our next live event. Good luck on the giveaway. Don't forget to register for that. We'll announce that next Tuesday at 2 o'clock Central Time.
Right.
So join us next Tuesday and see if you're one of the lucky winners.
And thank you very much for joining us today. And we hope that each and every one of you have a great weekend this weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you, and have a great weekend.
Yeah.